Okay, welcome to day 33. So, let's finish up day 32 by talking about what seemed to be a challenging problem of finding out how many sixes can go into 120 and 6/10. So, one thing you definitely want to make sure you're doing is writing your 6 times tables if that is a common mistake we continue to make. If you notice time and time again you're making your mistake because your multiplication facts, write them out. So in this case, we see that 6 goes into not 1, but 12 2 times. So the 2 goes above the 2 of the 12. 2 times 6 equals 12. You get 0 when you subtract. You bring down this 0. Now, how many 6s are going to go into 0? 0, which is why you put 0 here. 0 times 6 gives you 0. You subtract, obviously you get 0. You bring down your 6/10. Now, before you even started, you should have definitely brought up your decimal. If you didn't, this is a good time to do it. 6 goes into 6 one time. 1 times that 6 gives you 6. You subtract to get 0. You check your answer by taking 20 and 1/10, timesing it by your divisor of 6, and you'll see that you get your dividend of 120 and 6/10. So we are continuing with this same concept, but today we are going to switch it up and do dividing decimals by decimals. So dividing with a decimal divisor and decimal dividends. Decimal divisor and decimal dividend. So let's discuss this further. The way you want to solve this type of problem is you want to get rid of that decimal. Well, I can't just throw it out. Ta-da, no decimal. Now, if you're getting rid of the whatever you do here, you must do over here. Does that sound familiar? It should, because that's what we do when it comes to fractions too, right? Whatever you do to the numerator, you do the denominator. So whatever you do to the divisor, you have to do to the dividend. Okay? So if I'm going to get rid of this decimal, the only way I can get rid of it is if I shift it over. So if I shift it over one time, I get the number 6. Well, if I shift it over there, I have to shift it over here. So I'm going to do that. Make a shift. Well, now I get the number 54. So now I have to ask myself, how many 6s are going into 54? So it's kind of like a whole nother division problem. You're doing now 54 divided by 6 is technically what you're doing now. So you do your 6 times tables over here, and if you do it correctly, you should then, meaning you skip count by 6s. Whoops, I'm doing too many 2s there. Woo! Got a little distracted. You should then be able to skip count all the way up to find out that 6 times 9 will give you exactly 54. Therefore, giving you the answer of 9. 54 divided by 6 will give you that 9. Okay? Don't let the mistake happen because you thought 6 times 8 equals 54. Okay? If you are not fluent, and you have to just be honest with yourself. If you're not fluent with your multiplication facts, write them down. Okay? Because you're able to hopefully pick up on the fact that, wait a second, 48, 6 more than that is 54. Okay? If I came up with some answers like this, 6 times 6 equals 36. 6 more than that, 6 more than that is definitely not 41. Okay? It's 42. So writing them down visually allows you to see possible mistakes that could happen. So with that being said, let's go to number 2. Okay. We have 13 86/100ths divided by 1 4/10. Remember, what you have to do is get rid of that decimal. You can't just go throw it out and say poof. All right? So with that being said, I'm going to hit the pause button now for you to work through this problem. Were you hoping for the answer to be right there within a second or so? Not this time. I'm going to work through the problem hoping that you've already done so and see if you made a mistake, if you can catch it. So first things first, get rid of that decimal to give you 14. If I move that decimal over, shift that decimal over one spot, which is what it takes for me to get rid of the decimal, okay? I say get rid of, but technically there's a secret decimal right there. But we don't need to know that. I need to shift a decimal here over one spot. So then I have 138 6/10 is my new dividend. So I can just do that here as well. Now I have to ask myself, how many 14s will go into 13? None. So how about I just put a 0 there to hold that place so I don't accidentally put something there. How many 14s will go into 138? So now I have to do my 14 times tables. I'm going to skip to the punchline. Because I see this as a pretty high number, 138 compared to 14, I know that 14 times 10 will give you 140. 140 is pretty close to 138, which tells me I'm going to times it by 9. When I do that, I'll get 126. I'll subtract to get 1 there, 2 there, 2 there, and 6 there. Bring up my decimal. Okay. Ooh, I have 126. That looks familiar. That's because we just did that. 9 went into that. Okay. My 14 went into 126 9 times. So therefore, we're going to use another 9 there to make 126. I don't need any of those other 14 times tables. I subtract and I get 0. So my answer here is 9 9/10. So yes, my original problem, I'm going to write it off to the side here, was 13 86/100 divided by 1 and 4/10. The answer then is 9 9/10. So I could always check it by doing 1.4 times 9.9. And to make sure I get 13 86/100. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to check it. 9 9/10 times 1 4/10. So if I checked it, I could use one strategy 1 or strategy 2. But I also have to recognize that I have decimal points here. And there's 2 of them, which means my answer should have 2 decimal points. Ooh, my dividend has 2 decimal points. So I must be on the right track. If I'm using the strategy 1, I'm just going to show this check using strategy 1. 4 times 9 equals 36. 4 times 9 equals 36, plus that 3 equals 39. Then I'm going to hold that place value, because I'm going to make that into a 0. 1 times 9 equals 9. And 1 times 9 equals 9. Add them up, and I get 6 here, 18 there, 13 here. That was my original dividend. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to number 3 now. Okay, 35 hundredths divided by 7 tenths. Go ahead and do that now. So here, when I shifted to get rid of the decimal, I got 7. And when I shifted the decimal over here, I got 3 5/10. Now I'm really asking myself, how many 7s will go into 35? We're going to pretend that number is just 35. But in pretending that number is 35, I'm going to bring up my decimal, hold it there. So doing your 7 times tables, if you don't know them by heart now, you should recognize that 7 times 5 will give you 35. So 5 being the number I need there. Which gives, so therefore the answer is 5/10. And once again, I can check myself by doing 5/10 times 7/10. So my answer needs to have 2 decimal places. Five times 7 equals 35, which means 35 hundredths is my answer here, which is my original dividend there. But remember, the answer to number 3 is not 35 hundredths. That's your check, but it's 5/10. Okay, so your last problem until we get to the exit ticket is 13 73 hundredths divided by 3 2/10. So go ahead. You're going to need to do your 32 times tables. Keep that in mind. Okay, you're going to need to do 32 times 1, 32 times, because when you get rid of that decimal, it's shifting it over 1 spot, so you're going to have a number 32. So you're going to need to do 32 times 1, 32 times 2 to help you out here. Just a little tip before you get going. All right, hit the pause button now. Okay, so in doing my 32 times tables here, which I knew I was going to have to do since I shifted that decimal over 1, it gave me the number 32 as my divisor. I shifted my decimal over here 1 spot, which gave me the number 137 3/10. Okay, I now have to ask myself how many 32s go into not 1, not 3, but 137. And the closest I can get to is 128, which took me 4 times to get there. Don't forget that decimal there. Okay, so I got 128 here. I subtract, can't take 8 from 7. It's going to borrow from that 3, or steal. I get 17 minus 8 equals 9. Okay, I bring down my 3. Now, I'm asking myself how many 32s go into 93. The closest I can get to is 64 without going over. So I'm going to put, it took me 2 times to get there, put 64 here. Can't take 4 from 3, so I now have 9. That's an 8. So 290. I'm sorry, 29. Make a new place value. Bring it on down. Now I have to ask myself how many 32s go into 290. It's a biggie. This is a challenging one. Gotta work this one out. I'm going to hit the pause button now because I imagine a lot of you got lost right here. I'm going to have, and I'm going to allow you guys to finish up here. So this was a doozy. If you kept going and making new place values, it would have taken you out to 4.290625. That is a tough one, but it's definitely one that's going to help get you ready for 6th grade. I hope you persevered through that. I hope you didn't give up. But if you did, Identify where it is that you stopped and what you had to keep doing to get to the end. Okay? Go ahead now, do the exit ticket, which was not going to be as hard as this one. Don't worry. Best of luck, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.